I know my kids are like, oh no, she went up to the mic. So my name's Leilani. My kids are Olivia and Ryan. I didn't think I would get, so what's that? Ryan was in her last class at Monsignor. More on that in a second. And Olivia had Miss Rentschler too, and I know earlier, Pastor Jeff, I think was his name, he said that one of his kids had Miss Rentschler and didn't want to say where she ranked. Olivia, as she went through Matsuyama, each year she finished, she was like, that was my favorite teacher, right? So she had Miss Hoft, I think she was the last class that had Miss Hoft. Ryan had Mrs. Berry. But Olivia had Miss Hoft, that was my favorite teacher. And then she had Mrs. Brenson, that was my favorite teacher. And then she had Miss Lee. Miss Lee was my favorite teacher. And so on with Mrs. Jones and Mrs. Gravitz, and then Miss Rentschler. And I remember, when we all went up and she saw she was gonna have Miss Rentschler, I think she cried. Because she was so scared. She was so scared about having Miss Rentschler. She was like, I really wanted Mr. Mullen. She's like, can you do something? Can you talk to Miss Farina? I'm like, no, I'm not gonna talk to Miss Farina. I think it was Miss Montgomery at the time. But at the end, Miss Rentschler was her favorite teacher. At the end of 6th grade, right? And then I remember the following year, Miss Rentschler saying that I'm ready to, I can retire at this point. After Kaylee and Casey's class, she was eligible, doing the STIRS calculator, she was ready to retire, but then she knew that there was a cohort of students that were siblings. Nick, Ryan, Colson, and a number of other students that were in that class, and she was like, I'm gonna stay 1 extra year because these siblings are coming, and I wanna be here for them. And I'm so grateful, right? Because she could have retired with Mrs. Brenson in 2019, but we got her for that extra year. She talked about this huge retirement party that she was gonna have, and all her students were going to be servers at the party, and she was so excited, she was planning it, and then stupid COVID hit. And as a parent, so talking about her as a parent, I was so grateful that Ms. Rentschler, that Brian had Ms. Rentschler that last year because, right, COVID sucked for all of us, but then it's like, man, I have these kids, I'm not a teacher, what am I gonna do with Ryan and Olivia all day? I'm having to work. And the kind of teacher that she was, she went above and beyond. It was her last year teaching, and she didn't have to do all of this, but she learned how to do Zoom. And not only did she learn how to do Zoom, she brought those kids together in Ryan's class, I wanna say every day, for a couple hours a day from March all the way to the end of their 6th grade year. And at that point, I think for the district, there was no requirement, right? We were still all trying to figure it out. I think if anything, it was, try to get your class together once a week. But I wanna say Ms. Rentschler brought the kids together every morning because she knew it was important for them to have that stability. And they were robbed of Sly Park, right? I still hear it to this day, right? They never got to go to Sly Park. Ryan's class actually never got the privilege of singing Count on Me during promotion because COVID took their promotion away. But I know that, so many great teachers here. Ms. Farina pulled together that drive-through promotion at Watsuyama, and we were able to all celebrate Ms. Rentschler because it was her retirement, and Ms. Chinorisky as well. I believe Ms. Chinorisky also retired at that time. And so it was just that caliber of teaching, and I will never forget that her final months as a teacher, she went above and beyond and learned how to bring her kids together on Zoom. She didn't have to do that. And what a saving grace that was for all of us as we struggled through COVID. And her making the most of her final few months as a teacher. And again, how grateful I was that Ryan had that experience with her. It could have gone so differently his last few months at Matsuyama. And then the last thing I wanted to share, some of the memories I remember about Ms. Rentschler, I was remembering with some of the parents, she was so particular, right, about promotion. So we made, we volunteered. There were some of us that volunteered to help with promotion, like for Olivia's class, and I remember at the end making those candy lays and eating Taco Bell in the last minutes. But she was so particular about like where the balloons would go. And then one of the parents was saying how, yeah, I don't want to say who the daughter was, but Ms. Rentschler yelled at me, my speech wasn't good enough, right? Like she wanted me to do better for my speech, or yeah, that piano was good, but can they play it a little faster? So she was just so particular for how promotion was. And I remember joking with Monet that, okay, do you have all these details down? Because you're gonna have to do this again next year for Kaylee. So just very particular, but we loved her so much. So thank you.